Let's do this, boys. Let's go. Nice. I'm getting us into manager.
My vent is shot open.
Nose looks clear.
Flashing lens. One lens. Dead.
One in tellers.
I'm backing up.
Okay, pushing to lobby.
Right, hit the button now. Tellers is dead.
Heading through security.
I'm dead. Pushing bomb now. I'll go dry.
Security dead.
3, 2, 1, go. I'm dead on bomb. What's dead?
I think they're all dead.
I'm defusing.
Well played, boys.
Nice. Nice. Well done.
Was
Nice
way
clutch.
too close.
Alright, here we go.
Alright, what's the plan?
Are we going all out?
Yeah.
So they could do this. I don't think that they'll try to open storefront.
I feel like storefront's a big enough play. Door charge freezer, and then wall charge storefront so you can look at the front.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's rocking what?
I'm taking extra flash just to see if we can finish it right here.
Alright, I'm out of here.
Well, they're going now. They're ready.
Here I'm heading north.
Alright.
Who's got Quacker?
Do we have arcade, or do they have it?
We still have arcade.
3, 2, 1.
Tell them going in.
Freezer and storefront.
You have the power.
Send it, brother.
Watch arcade. Watch arcade then. They can't come the other way. They can't
Nice.
come
GG.
Get it? Good execution.
Got it.
Green, we just censor office and dock, right?
Yo, what? It like swings open? Dude, this is slick.
I'm dropping.
Going.
I'm pushing.
Nice.
Alright, what are we doing, boys? That north red door looks really good. It gives us really quick access to the vaults. I like the vents, though. Vents are probably better for the fire.
Alright.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Question and Answers with Alexander Baard, our creative director. Here with me, I'm Dave
everyone.
Pine, as usual. Give me 1 second, and then we can start. Please let us know if everything is running fine. Audio should be fine, I think. Might have to get Alex a little louder. We'll see. Okay, all right. Let me switch over here. Seems like we're running fine. Awesome. All right. Here we are again. We've decided to make these Q&A sessions a little bit more frequent. So I'm thinking about like once a month or so is a good frequency, I think. And we decided to do cameras today. So here we are. You can see our faces. Awesome.
I can't see Twitch chat, by the way, because it's crashing my my downstream.
No, okay. Oh, it seems like my upstream is actually struggling for some reason. That's worrisome. Not sure what's going on with there. I hope the stream is not doing too badly. I might have to lower bitrate. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, I know what's going on. Dropbox, stop doing stuff.
The Russians are cutting their undersea cables right now.
No, it's Dropbox. uploading
Oh,
things. There we go.
Word
That
docs.
looks better. That looks way better. Okay, so let's try that again because I was probably stuttering on stream. Hello everyone and welcome to another question and answer session with Alexander Baard, our creative director. I'm TH Pine, your community gardener or manager, whatever you prefer. And yeah, we're here again to answer all the questions. We'll do these sessions a little bit more frequent than we used to. I'm thinking once a month. And as usual, you can either ask your questions in Twitch or YouTube chat live on stream, or you can join the Discord and ask your questions in the Questions for Baard channel, or you can join the stage channel and request to speak, and you can ask your questions in voice directly, speak to us directly. So that's your options. And let's just start with a very simple one from, where is it? Damn it. From Timu. How are you?
How am I? I'm okay. I'm alive.
Glad to hear it.
Carrying on.
All right. Tetra has another very important question. Why is Baard half naked?
That's just my regular state of being, you know.
That makes sense. All right. Let's go to the a little bit more serious questions, maybe. Where did the thread go? Discord, what are you doing? I might have to read out this channel really quick. I think Discord is not showing me everything I want. There we go, that looks better. Okay, so Argo is asking, and a few others are following up with fairly broad, but when are you gonna be more transparent with updates? And I asked for for a little bit more specifics, and basically people are asking if it's possible that we would be more transparent with like what are we exactly working on right now, what's the progress on these things, and when can they expect updates to ship, basically. So more details than what we have on the roadmap. One example, one thing Simba brought up, for example, is the downtime pass has been in development on the roadmap for quite some time, and there has been no updates on if that's still being worked on, what the progress is, etc. pp.
Yeah. How do I put this?
That's Baard's thinking face, by the way.
Basically, we will be more transparent quite shortly. I'm still figuring out the best way to express what's going on. Not sure if a roadmap is the best way to do that. But it's not like the downtime pass has not been in development for what that would be like 6-8 months now. The reality was we were working on the Unity 2021 update, so some way to actually show when things change would be better. I just think there's suffice it to say TBD, but I'm sensitive to why you're asking that, which is we've done a piss poor job of communicating exactly what the hell is going on. So I would like to say that our immediate priority is to start solving things with the game that should have been solved a long time ago. And why they should have been solved a long time ago is they're cost effective to have done. So I am paying a bit more direct attention to how these updates are paced out and making sure that we don't just keep doing hat only updates, because that's just a shameful act. So I hope that answers your question, but I just haven't decided what the method to apprise you guys of what's coming up will be. But whatever comes will be better than what we had, because it's not hard to improve on garbage with Captain Price. And that's our knock on the roadmap itself, by the way. I think Pion did a great job with that. I just mean if I don't give him the information of what we're working on, what is he supposed to do? You know. So yeah, we'll fix it.
All right. Thanks for that. Then let's get Adaxi in here. Send him an invite. Oh, I should get back in the habit of sending these invites a few seconds early because it can take some time. But here he is. Hello. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good. Hey, Baard.
Hi.
So you already know I've been involved in this game for a very long time, almost 2 years at this point.
Mhm.
And one of the things you mentioned in the Steam page about this update was weapon handling was not pushed with this update, and I wanted to ask, are you planning any sort of public test branch like we saw with Gunplay 2.0, or are there going to be any like public tests for updates in the future?
I think perhaps exposing the weapon handling stuff to the DPL is going to be necessary, right? Because they'll have probably the most intense interest as to whether or not it is competitive. So, yeah, it can be done. I mean,
Okay.
it's just a question of how, right? I mean,
Okay.
how important do you think it is?
And the other thing, just a simple question I wanted to ask. Do you think maybe adding like a priority tag to the roadmap would be
I'm
considered good,
losing him.
like
Can you hear him okay? Fine.
communication with
I
the
can hear him,
community
yeah.
on what's being worked on?
Adaxi, hold on a minute.
Because
Seems like
I know there's a lot that's being done.
I think he might not be able to
and
hear us.
you guys have a
though.
lot to do. It's just some people aren't seeing like what's being worked on actively.
Give me a second.
or
I hear him clearly.
I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, Adaxi, can you still hear me? I think he can't. So I'm
Would
just...
you
Can you wait?
would
I'll
you
send
mark
a
things as
message.
like a priority, like publicly, or like is there a list of
think voice
things like
broke.
top down that you want to do?
You cannot hear us. Okay, I'll send in a message. Oh no, Baard is gone. Okay, great. Okay, I'll wait for Alex to join back. Okay. So Alexi, did you fix it?
Yeah, you
All
can hear
right.
me now, right?
Yeah, I
Okay,
can hear you. I heard you, but Baard couldn't. So
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, the fucking I don't know, Discord shit.
No, that was that
Could
was
you
my
just
end.
take from
Yeah.
the top. No,
So-
it was me because
Oh, okay.
I was having the Russians cutting the cables again.
So I was gonna ask, in terms of transparency, like what do you think of like marking things as priorities on the roadmap, or like expressing what you want to work on next after you finish updates?
What do you mean?
Like with this update, you mentioned you want to work on the weapon handling, or like on the Trello roadmap, like marking things as priorities so people can know what you're working on as like a form of transparency. Is that reasonable, or like is that something you've looked at? Or
Our goals are to release updates on a far more aggressive regular schedule.
okay,
And so what I'd like to do is kind of have a normal schedule where we preview where that update is at, what it contains, and then all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I do understand the this framework with the how do I put this?
Baard doesn't like roadmaps.
No, the art is fine for roadmaps actually, because like they do stuff well in advance, so kind of makes sense, and it visually displays on the roadmap quite well. The problem is we have 4 engineers, and let me just leave it at this new update schedule will resolve a lot of the community's problems with knowing where the game is going and understanding what the heck we're doing with our time. So it's just it's very difficult for me to speak on this because there are a couple of balls in the air that I can't talk about, and
That makes sense.
there's also like some team dynamic stuff I probably shouldn't talk about. So just suffice it to say that we're going to do much better, and you guys can look forward to actual substantial gameplay changes that makes the game more fun to play, like on a regular basis, instead of it just being like, we waited how long and we got some new reloads or something, right? Like,
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah. The cool news is that because of all this weird task switching that has unfolded over the last, I don't know, 2 years, the good news is that a lot of things have been partially completed, and so the time to complete them is substantially less. And that means that there will be a more achieving that regular pace will be much easier. If that makes sense.
Awesome.
So,
That's great to hear. Thank you so much, Baard.
Yeah, and like I get it, guys. Right? Like I would be pissed if I was you guys too. That like this game hasn't changed substantially since the release, in my opinion. I mean, obviously we've made very important strides on performance and like basic improvements to the weapon handling. We've added maps and stuff, right? But like the game, what I would call the sandbox, right? All of the utilities that you have, the weapons, all stuff available to the player, right? It's been dead stagnant since well before our release into early access, and it just breaks my heart to see that, honestly. But it's just sort of been the product of very difficult resource constraint problem. So, but the good news is that since we're treading water, or I should say, just we have our head above water on those critical issues, we can focus more on that stuff. So that's good. It's like if, say, half of the people who buy the game suffer serious performance issues, right? The biggest thing you can do to like affect change is to improve their experience. So it locked us pretty badly after release for a year, and scrambled a lot of work. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But again, like I think this next update will please a lot of people, and that will be kind of like the shape of things to come. So.
All right, sounds good.
Cool. Thanks,
Adaxi. We were talking about performance and updates. So there's a question from chat. Is optimizing the game still a high priority? I know that was being worked on a while ago, but haven't been caught up with news. Well, we just released an update today that has a significant performance update. Oh yeah, we should probably mention that really quick. So for everyone who's missed it, we've released an update today. We upgraded to Unity 2021, which gave us a significant performance update and a few other smaller benefits. And we also released a new mini battle pass with it, the Assassin's Pass, which you can unlock for new cool cosmetics. So, but I make a follow-up question to that. Because I feel like that's something the community would like to know. So we just shipped the performance update we get from the Unity upgrade. Are we planning on working on more performance updates beyond that? And if so, right now or later down the line?
Of course, we're still. I mean, in the patch notes, I expressed that our goal in the long term is to get at least a rock steady 144 hertz, right? It's it's just like the more you work on performance, the less return you get on that time investment. So
Mm.
we're in this resource constraint problem. If we had, let's say we had 50 engineers, and of course we could dedicate a substantial portion of those to working on performance, and we balance all this other stuff. But when it comes down to it, it's like, you really have to make choices. Like, do you want a performance update or do you want character customization? So yeah, we did the Unity update. That's very good. I think there's still Matt is working on some improvements, or was working on some improvements to the simulation layer, and I think that there's probably some efficiency that can be unlocked there. I know that another major concern that particularly the DPL has expressed is stuff related to hit registration.
Mhm.
And so that's what I'm talking about when I say the simulation layers. That's part of that. So, we'll see. It's just, again, my attention over the last 6 months has not been directly focused on the game itself. But now I have had some time to build a plan for us, and it's mostly focused on improving the quality of gameplay, because of course that's the heart of the game. And performance will be balanced against those issues. It helps to get player feedback. It could be that people play this thing like performance is pretty good and the gameplay changes are more important. Or it could be that enough people are saying, hey, this is still really bad, we got to fix it, right?
Mhm.
We'll shift resources toward that. So
Okay.
it's up to you guys to be loud enough on the issue. But everything comes at the expense of something else, right? So
Yeah, that's how it
keep
is,
that in mind.
unfortunately. Okay, one thing I wanted to add, what I forgot to mention about the Assassin's Pass. So we as I mentioned, we just shipped a new Battle Pass. It's time limited and it's free. Or I should put it the other way. It's free. It's completely free. You don't have to pay for it or anything. But it's time limited. I think to a week, if I'm not mistaken. Going like in sync with the. Are we on sale yet? I think we are.
Yeah.
With the sale.
Yeah,
So we're on sale to promote this update a little bit, basically, and
it's just a little treat for those who come back to play the game.
Exactly. It shouldn't be too hard to unlock. It's only a couple of games. Well, a few more than a couple, but it should not be too hard to unlock in a week's time. So yeah, get on it.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, let's stick to the topic of the Unity update. Red Commissar asks, with the release of Unity 2021, what major hurdles, if any, are left in bringing back or introducing alternatives to the many things still lost from the refactor, such as shielding card destruction, both from wall charges and bullets, physics or physics-like impact on doors and items, blood ? While I understand any hesitance to give a defined ETA for any of these, can we at least get some idea of where they are in the priority list?
Blood's not a technical problem.
That's a way to put it, yeah.
So, could you just go through what are my options? You got the shield.
Yeah, card and shield, destruction,
so
both from wall charge and bullets.
The shield isn't next update. I'm evaluating how much work the shield will be, and I've spoken with Revenant in particular to arrive at a more reasonable minimum viable product for what that shield looks like. Just for context for everyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, we had a ballistic shield in the alpha that was taken out because of the refactor. Why it was taken out was we did not have time to fix it for, it was broken from the refactor, and we didn't have time to actually fix it prior to release. We've deferred it for far too long. I do agree with that. That said, the problem with the shield is there are issues that existed in the alpha really bad today. And so one of them would be, like, the meta with the shield was you would use the quick drop bind to immediately switch to shotgun, right? And so you just roll up on a guy and then shotgun him in the face, and there's basically nothing you can do. So problems like that have to be solved before we release it. And why that matters is it does add to the expense of the task. That said, I do think that the shield is far more achievable to do in one of these regular updates that I'm talking about. And candidly, I'm considering it for the next one. But you know, on the other hand, like the problem with the cart is, oh my god, like the cart didn't even have gravity in the alpha, so you could just like drive it off a cliff and be floating in the air.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
So shield is like far more achievable, and I think also more impactful than the cart. The cart's that's gonna be a while, so we'll definitely be decoupling them. They won't come in the same update.
Okay, that's definitely new info. So
yeah, I know that the cart itself is supposed to be countered by the shield, and like I get it, but you know, the shield has far more utility than just hard countering the shopping technical, right? So I'm starting to see a lot of value in why Rainbow Six Siege just did Tachanka's turret, and I certainly don't want to just do that. But if we want the cart, it's gonna be a while for that. So it just flat out does not fit into the scope of a regular update. So you know, stay tuned on that one. But I think the shield news should be encouraging. Obviously, that's like an essential fantasy for the enforcers. Is
absolutely
everyone stacks behind the shield and pushes the defenders. So yeah, you know, I'm like, I hear you guys. You know, we should have done this a long time ago. Please understand that there's, you know, you can only see the tip of the iceberg of what's going on, and there's a good reason for that. It is for the benefit of, you know, people within the company to be able to make mistakes. So, yeah, my point is that with how this new setup is going, I think you're going to see a lot more things the community has been asking for a long time make it into the game, you know. And then I believe Commissar asked about was it physics and destruction?
Yeah, he asked about
So
destruction from wall charge or bullets, and
yeah,
physics like impact on doors and items.
We are working on destruction like right now, and the results are pretty encouraging. What remains to be seen is destruction physics based, or is it you can't see my hands, or is it particle based? And what I mean by that is why physics got kicked out of the alpha, which is why, you know, when you kick down a door, it does that like embarrassing thing where it just lies flat. Every time I see that in like a trailer that I'm making, I'm like, you know, yeah, there used to be physics in the game with alpha. You can see it in, say, like the announced trailer. It was super fucking cool. The problem is it adds, like, the boilerplate, just turning physics on is half a sec, or I'm sorry, half a millisecond. And we get 8 milliseconds for, what is that, 120 hertz?
Could be
Hang on,
correct.
let me do the math. Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
you know, just to understand when physics is really going with everything involved, that's 2 milliseconds. So, you know, a quarter of your frame budget goes to physics. And obviously, given the piss poor frame rate that we launched with, that is why it had to be done. It was a choice between that or a game that was running at like maybe 30 frames per second on the day. that said, we have bought a lot more performance. It's just, you know, we have this tension of like, well, we want the highest quality, like, I guess the terminal effect of bullets and just all of your decisions in the game result in like cool things, right? Like if you throw a frag grenade at a bunch of C-store shelves, then you get to see a confetti explosion of Doritos, right? The question is just, do we achieve that via physics or do we achieve it via particles? Ben is exploring the physics option right now, and I hope the results are encouraging. So it really is TBD. I don't know when it happens. I do know that lights out is being worked on, and those results are very encouraging. So that strategy will be coming back to defenders quite shortly. But yeah, we're just, you know, it'll be rolled into one of these regular updates and will substantially improve that coolness that you feel in the game. And I really do hope that it comes back to being the full gravity of the alpha with, you know, comprehensive physics where it's, you know, you shoot something like a bottle and it knocks off the adjacent bottles and they fall to the floor, right? Like that's just a cool moment. So, but you know, it's just think about how much you're going to piss off the DPL guys if the result of that is frame rate now runs at kind of what it used to, and they were just on the verge of being actually a respectable competitive game for input output. So, you know, that's just endless tensions like that kind of project. Was there anything else that Commissar asked about?
Physics, like door impact and stuff like that, and item physics.
Yeah, that was all in the same physics category. So we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
but yeah,
and
when I say like we're actually working on it, it's like that's Ben's stuff right now, you know. So it's again the blood. Yeah, I already spoke on that. So let's continue.
All right. I see. It seems like my internet provider is causing some issues. I hope it's not too bad. It's still running okay, but let's just hope it stays that way. I'm sorry for that. I all other devices are more or less turned off here. Nothing should impact it too badly, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. Might just be the provider. I hope it's staying somewhat stable. Oh, it might be the storm. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, there's a big storm. Well, right now I think it's not that big anymore. We had a big storm today, but we'll just carry on.
Microwave internet?
Say again?
So what are you running microwave internet right now?
I don't know. It's not super not as stable as it used to be. So we'll see. Okay, let's get Snarmsum here. He has a question. Our lovely snake person. Hello.
Hello.
Whoa, you're loud. Give me a sec.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, you were at 200% for some reason. I'm sorry for RIP headphone users. Okay. Go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to start off my question with an example. There was a time when people would complain about the mob's reticle, it being not precise enough and hard to use. So starting from the first time that somebody complained about it on the server, until you guys fixed it, it took you guys 9 months to add 9 pixels to the mob's reticle. So my question is, why do you guys prioritize big changes so much over the smaller ones? And when are you planning to address the smaller changes?
Aaron has been addressing a lot of the smaller changes immediately, so that change has been, I think, very
Aaron
beneficial.
being Aussie, by the way.
Yeah, so like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but a few patches ago we added like, what is it, brace sensitivity?
Yeah, brace sensitivity, a few other things.
That's Aaron basically just saying, "Fuck it, I'm gonna make the change." And
for context, he's our QA guy. He's not supposed to fix the code. He's supposed to find the bugs.
Yeah. And yeah, regarding the scope, that's fixed next update for real this time. So, meaning getting rid of the fuzzy green reticle and all that nonsense. But yeah, I'm Snarms. I'm sorry, like I don't think there's a good excuse for why it takes so long to do something so trivial.
All right.
Okay. It's another question.
No, not really.
It's okay. No.
All right. Then
Uh,
thanks for the question.
Yeah, that is changing. So we will have more immediate feedback and more immediate action on feedback like that instead of being years of people complaining about the same issue and no one steps up to actually fix it. So
Yeah, it's just with every major update, you guys leave some unfinished stuff behind usually, and over time that kind of builds up into something really frustrating.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope it will be fixed soon.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Cool.
All right. So from Twitch chat, Daniel asks, could we have an alternative to the green doors that generate between every room? Perhaps sometimes static pillars should generate or sliding door. Oh no, arches should generate or sliding doors or static pillars. So many fights happen through a door.
What you will get is more rule. So here, let me explain. One of the things that I've been working on over the last year is upgrading the understanding of our level designers how to make levels, and I think they made really great strides. And particularly, you're going to see some new stuff that they've been doing on. New changes to existing levels. Instead of like a brand new level, because the last thing we need is another fake thing. So we've been going back and improving the gameplay of our existing levels by changing how they generate, adding new rooms, and solving problems with them. Problems in how players play the map and how that has become totally stale. Part of that understanding is that rooms relate to each other, and the default way that they relate is they have a green door between them, which is obviously not exciting at all. And I've been pressing them to think more deeply about how to get rooms to relate to each other beyond there's a door.
Mm-hmm.
And like the best example of this, right, is it's like the storefront in C-Store has a bunch of different relation rules, right? Like the arcade, when it attaches to the storefront, it has the arcade arches, right? When the freezer attaches to the storefront, it has the
these freezer doors,
inside freezer shelves.
These shelves, yeah.
And there was a time when we used to have the freezers not always spawn with the inset freezers, right? And it's like things like that have been corrected over time, and we get much better results in how rooms relate to each other. So that said, I don't think it's just going to be a random like, oh, well, sometimes it's this type of door and sometimes that type of door. I think it's really important to have that kind of consistency, because if you open up a room and you're expecting to see, I don't know, an open green door in the worst case, but instead you get like a impassable security gate or something, then now your expectations have been defied, and it's really easy to like gloss over small details like that. So it's important to have like rules baked into the room on what kind of doors will spawn against what other rooms, if that makes sense. But yeah, like the relationship between rooms is kind of like the most interesting I'm sorry, I wouldn't say the most interesting. It's terribly uninteresting, unfortunately. But it's the most common way a fight unfolds is through a doorway, right? Another thing that we're trying to work on is make the interior of rooms more appealing places to fight than through doorways. But that's always going to be a tough sell, quite frankly. I mean, like my go-to strategy is I'll just open up a door and then fight from backline, because it's like if I can either be exposed to flashbangs inside the office, right, or I could fight from bulletproof ice bags, right, in freezer.
Yeah.
And like why would I expose myself to that risk when I can get easy hits and then have that kind of same fight unfold that would happen if it's in the freezer afterward, right? And so like the enforcers always kind of have to contend with the door problem, but yeah, we're just trying to make those room relationships better. For instance, like I guess to the hand, we're working on a C-store update, and one of the things that come with that is like now the office has a window that looks into the convenience store storefront. So this room that otherwise, if it didn't have a door put in, right, it would never actually relate to the storefront except being wall chargeable. Now it's like, okay, well, the office becomes this piece of terrain that you have to choose to control or not control, so that the enforcers can basically gain purchase on the bomb and defuse it, and all of those changes to the levels have been very, very positive, and I'm really looking forward to releasing them soon. So
sounds great.
I see Rob has joined. Hi, Rob.
Hey, long time not to see it. All right.
Do you have another question?
Yeah, sure. Where is it? There we go. Revenant asks, how long approximately until we see the new Argus art and cosmetics? Will you let us support the game by buying a battle pass by then?
Could you repeat? Sorry.
How long approx until we see the new Argus art and cosmetics? Will you let us support the game by buying a battle pass by then? So, when new art and when can we buy?
The paid battle passes is certainly a TBD affair. I don't know when it is, but the Argus art, which I'm like matters of monetization, limited interest to me. That's just like a it's something you got to do. But what is interesting, right, is what we're doing with the enforcers. I don't know what people have seen, honestly, but the reason why we didn't release a battle pass for the enforcers is just defender content. Is I wasn't happy with the enforcer's silhouette. I thought that it was really a missed opportunity where we have two sides that are supposed to be a dichotomy, and one of the opportunities that you have is to use the profile of those people as a way to enhance that dichotomy. So a good example is like if you look at, say, the Heavy in TF2, it's kind of a very different silhouette than all of these other guys. And given that the Argus guys are supposed to have a bit more health, I think they should be a bit more easy to hit as well. But much deeper than that, it's just more about the feeling of being a guy that weighs perhaps 300 pounds with his armor on, right? Versus being a much smaller guy who's, I think, a bit more reminiscent of the Ethiopian pilots or pirates in Captain Phillips or something, right? Like, so we wanted to get that feeling of having two different sides with two different ways in which they handle. And the first step of that was making sure that we got the frame sorted out, because once we start making cosmetics and customizations for that, the cost of making a change, it just linearly increases over time. It pretty much becomes untenable very quickly. So yeah, this was just a decision that we made that I don't think any other studio would have done. We did it so that we could have the best possible outcome for these enforcers, and I really look forward to showing that stuff soon. As for the release, the problem is we just need to figure out. We're waiting on Kevin to illuminate how much work will be required in terms of a frame update, because essentially we have two choices. We can either use the rigs that work right now on the defenders, right? Or we can make a new enforcer rig with crucially broader shoulders is the characteristic. And the reason why that matters is if you use the smaller rig, things are just horrendously scrunched. And we already have evident rig issues for anyone who's closely looking at things in our current animations with the enforcers. But if we want to make these guys bigger, then those problems will be deeply exacerbated. So we're just trying to get a fix on can we essentially port the reloads to a wider framed rig, and once we have the answer, we'll know what the path forward is. But yeah, I'm hoping for the highest quality outcome. I definitely want to get to a point where these enforcers feel like really big, tough dudes, and they look like the actual Navy SEALs and such that they're inspired by, instead of being kind of how they are now. So
All right.
but yeah, like I don't know when the release date is. We need more information, basically.
Okay, so investigating right now. All right.
But once we have it, I mean, it's gonna look sick as fuck, because there's just gonna be so much
Oh, for sure.
opportunity to do like really, really cool stuff with them, So yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, Tanky asks, are there plans to add any more guns in the future?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's this thing that has, the community will have you think has been in development for years and years, but really it was just something that I was playing around with back when I actually had time to directly contribute to the project, called the Defender Economy. When we added the new guns to, in Gunplay 3.0, we added the Gruber SD and
The big KR.
what else? Yeah, the big KR.
Yeah.
And people complain, well, we're fucking up the Defender Economy, right? And because the Defender Economy is entirely based on scarcity and is a mirror. It's identical to the Attacker Economy, right? Where we want to get to is this is not the case, and the Defenders have an economy that functions differently than the Enforcer economy. And the reason for that is we want Defenders to be able to surprise the Enforcers, right? It's supposed to be like the Home Alone side of the game, where they show up with a new strategy that you didn't expect. They kind of throw a monkey wrench in your plan, especially if they can hard call what your attack will be, and that can seriously have impact on the game. But a thing that comes part and parcel with that is we want defender gun, like attacker guns are great all-rounders, right? Like you can take the Black Tar into real close range fight and still come out on top, because these guys are meant to be professional door kickers, right? Presumably that is all they do all day until they die. But their weapons are adapted to the environment. The defender weapons are meant to be very specific, well-defined rolled weapons. I think one of the real successful guns that we did was, say, the what's it called, the F1 Lagros.
Yeah.
And originally that was designed to be an SKS, and the idea was that it would reload quite quickly. Might still do that weapon as kind of like an alternative one day, but that weapon, because it's got that really long load time with the packet that it uses for a magazine. That means that it really does have to play in because once you're switch to something else if you're up close. And what we want the defenders to be about is to be choosing very interesting weapons so that it's like, I want to play this position, and that's what you want to do first, right? Is figure out where do I need to be that's of most benefit to the team, and then choose the right tool for the trade. And like come up with good combinations. Like, well, if you have, say, the F1, then maybe you want to take like an automatic sidearm, for instance, right? That's where we want to go in the long run. And the benefit that you get from that is you can have really, really wide pool of armament available to the defenders, perhaps not all at the same time, right? But, I think we all agree that having a lot of variety in weapons is a good thing. And the kind of like tension that you have is if the only like meaningful control for economy and thought on the defender side is which guns do we take into a fight because they won't be here next round, then that's really limiting. It means we can only do N guns before the economy just breaks, right? And I think that's sad. That
Makes
said, all
sense,
that kind of stuff is a long way out. Between now and then, we'll do guns, but then it'll kind of like, if we're in this kind of current scarcity paradigm, it does mean that whenever we add a gun, we'll probably have to delete one instance of another gun, right? And that will scale for some time. So that's good. But
yeah, we have still
I think the
plenty
drawback
of
that,
F1s that we can get rid of.
yeah, but the drawback of that, right, is that when you get down to one gun instance, now you've got this sad moment where it's like someone takes the gun that you want it to use, right? And
yeah, for sure.
I don't know, maybe that's not that bad, right? As long as we make enough guns that are interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm open to options. It's really more like, I guess the phenomenon I'm talking about, it's not so important for the weapon economy. It's more important for the utility economy, because it's like, okay, the flashbang's probably the most important attacker utility.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a bad thing, but it is what it is, right? What we would like is for the defenders to have a huge breadth of utilities available to them that are all as consequential or even more so than the current flashbang. The problem is, if scarcity is the driver for that, then how do we just, if we give you a bunch of stuff that's tuned to 11, then that is to say it's really, really powerful, and if used properly in its role, that can be devastating, right?
Yeah.
Then the defenders will, of course, just flood the map. Like, why won't they just take everything they can? And it becomes just a hyper shit show real quickly. So that's kind of why I'm saying scarcity is not a great mechanism to limit the defender economy. We want to think deeper on how to solve that problem, because we do want them to have the ability to surprise the attackers and draw from a vast pool of clever options. Yeah, I guess I have spoken enough on that topic. But what was the original question? I'm sorry.
If there will be more guns.
Yes, there will be more guns. And we'll probably just go with the current setup of like delete one instance of gun, put new gun in its place.
All right, sounds good. Okay, we got Gutter here, or if I'm pronouncing that correctly, with the question.
I think so.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi. Congrats on reaching another. Congrats to the team, actually, on reaching another milestone. Yeah, I've been keeping a close eye on updates regularly. Yeah. So I guess I have a question on the team's current thoughts on the current state of gameplay. So besides from what you just spoke just now about the defender economy, so what I'm mostly concerned about is the gunplay mechanics and player movement. Is that how it is supposed to be right now, or do you think there'll be some more improvements to it?
Yeah, I can't really speak for the team, but I can give you my opinion on it. Is that okay?
Sure.
I think that the movement in our game sucks and is very constricting. And that was something that was coming with the sway, is making that a bit more expressive to the player. That's a good word for it.
Right, so
The
you think
purpose
it's
of
clunky right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hate that it feels like you're a brick. You know.
Right. So,
but you know, like that, it's kind of always been that way, right? And there's always going to be a tension where it's like we can never basically become Apex Legends, where have very, very nimble, expressive characters, because then the value of planning gets undermined. If you can't have consistent prediction of how players will be able to move, then you can't really plan for how you're going to hold the door, obviously. That said, I think there's, my intention, I guess, is to generally improve the expressiveness of movement so you can finesse things. But then after that, to further dimorphize the enforcers and defenders, because like one side is supposed to feel like, well, a bunch of really heavy geared up guys, and they should have a feeling of momentum behind them. That doesn't mean slow, right? It just means, like I think you guys are probably familiar with Tarkov's inertia update. That kind of feeling of like enforcers committing to a direction and pushing through, that's good and kind of expresses the reality of what it's like to be on a SWAT team, right? On the other hand, the defenders, we want them to feel more nimble, and the kind of like go-to example that we have is we want them to feel like your Spike from Cowboy Bebop. He's a character with a lot of verve in how he moves, and if you can make moving around and jumping on top of objects and stuff feel kind of like those fight scenes in Cowboy Bebop, that would be an amazing state to get to. And I think those two things are fine, because it's like enforcers need to be predictable in how they move through the level, but defenders can be a bit clever in how they like surprise you, and like that eventual long-term goal. Nothing's going to get done anytime soon on that front. That would be amazing to get to, and I look forward to seeing that day. So and then as for the handling, Vincent and I didn't really talk too much about the weapon sway when he started it. And my understanding of what he was trying to achieve was penalize movement, like shooting while moving, essentially, so that people holding an angle had a better advantage, and essentially conferring it's like you have this problem, right? Why you have AD spam in games is because peeker's advantage is a phenomena. And so if you hold an angle, you're kind of dumb, because if you're not jiggle peeking it, right, you're kind of missing out on half the time you could jiggle peek back and neutralize any kind of peeker's advantage, and now you're on the same terms and become a simple reaction time test between both parties, right? If in the worst case you're playing high ping, 150 milliseconds peeker's advantage, right, that you're not going to win that fight. You're going to get double tap before you even realize it. So I think that's what his intention was for the weapon sway stuff. But I still think it needs a bit more work, because we definitely don't want it to be something that makes you feel totally disempowered as a player trying to shoot while on the move. So we're going to strike a nice balance, and we can look forward to that in the next patch.
Yeah, thank you so much. That
sure.
was interesting. All the best to you and the team.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Thank you. And just to clarify, the weapon sway you just mentioned was the update that was supposed to be coupled with the update we shipped today, but it's not quite ready yet.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. All right. Then I have a question.
We just did not address all the player feedback, and so I didn't think it would be wise to push it out before we did that.
Yeah.
Obviously, as I mentioned
the build has
before,
been tested with the cadets, and yeah.
Yeah, but we definitely want the DPL to really sign off on this and explore kind of the depths of what the change has to offer, instead of it being so cursory, like, oh, we did one session and these 10 people said it was okay.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense. All right, question from Nick Bobo. Has limp/gun clipping through walls been fixed? And if not, is that something that's going to be addressed soonish?
Well, I guess you can't really reply. I was going to ask, how do you want us to fix it? Because clipping was intention. Like, there used to be builds of the game where we would do an overdraw like any other game, and your gun would show up above whatever object that you would be clipping through. But the problem with that, of course, is on third person, that's not the reality.
Yeah.
So, your gun is sticking through a wall. So at least the first person clipping is supposed to warn you that this is happening and make people a bit more where their muzzle's pointing. Because I really like that mechanic in games like Counter-Strike. It's like when you peek a corner, you really got to manage your muzzle. There's like a very interesting channel called Woof Pro, which breaks down like the dynamics of room clearing, right? Like the I guess to speak that, I would say the movement considerations. Is that a good word? They'll basically teach you how to clear a corner such that your muzzle does not present around the corner before you do, right? Because if you warn, there's a guy in that room, right? And you're sneaking around the corner, playing it off, and he sees your muzzle 1st, you're dead.
Yeah, true.
And that's how our game's supposed to be. But on the other hand, if you're holding an angle and your gun's sticking around the corner, then we definitely want to communicate you need to back off. The only problem is it's like, I'm sure as shit not going to do weapon collision like games like Counter-Strike do. It's just, that is bad, right? Like, that is not the solution. I don't care who fucking thinks it is. They're just dead wrong, because what's being violated is this player agency of, as a guy holding a gun, you have all sorts of postural changes available to you to make pointing at an angle viable, right? So it's just kind of like, I guess my answer is clipping is probably going to be here to stay. Maybe I'd like to do the siege solution where they kind of like collapse vertices on characters and guns, right? Like, that is to say, you stick your gun into a wall, and then what happens is, at the collision point, all of the verts on that object get pushed back and just squished into a plane. I might want to do that for something like, I don't know, certain cases. Honestly, I think my answer is I just don't care. I think that if people stick their head through a wall intentionally and get shot in the head, if it's like your leg or something errantly goes through a wall or an object, that's bad, right? And then I guess I spoke on the muzzle and how important it is to respect player aim. And so there's always going to be, I think, a little bit of clipping until I think of some very clever solution. But if you have any, let me know.
Well, as a follow-up, maybe would it be viable to handle situations where you're clipping through a solid wall differently to where you're like moving around a corner or through a door? Because like the gun should not clip through a solid wall, right? I guess we can agree on that.
Well, I mean, it should clip through a solid wall, because if you approach a doorway, right, my alternative, if it doesn't clip through a wall, like I have two available options, right? One is use the vertice technique that I talked about just now. I think the problem is that you essentially well, let me think about, you're playing off a corner. The verts collapse. It could probably be done. It'll still resolve as clipping on third person, right?
Sure, yeah. More concerned about the gun clip is sticking out on the other side of the wall, where it really shouldn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, that's like the thing, right? Is it's like, I guess my long-term solution, what I'd love to do is get retention holds. Wish I had a rifle on hand. Do I have a long object? So it's like you just watch these like channels covering room clearing, right? One technique is you might have like an 15, and instead of shouldering the weapon, you bring it above your shoulder and hold it like that.
Mhm.
I like to see that reflected. It's like your aim point is totally one-to-one respective, right? So it's like I'm looking at a base enemy, right? And when I go into retention, my posture shifts, but I'm aiming exactly at that point, and the muzzle is on target, right? Maybe there's like a recoil penalty for firing in that state. I'd like to get there because I think that's interesting. Like, okay, you're in a real tight space. You have to deal with this problem. There's a penalty of like, if you're right up against a door, then you're going to be firing retention like this. If you stand off from it, then you get the full, shoulder of the weapon. That's probably, where things go in the long term. But yeah, Kevin's got a lot of work before he can budget such a thing.
For sure. All right. Let's move on, I guess.
I do have like a hard out at 1, so.
Right, that's 20 more minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We got Baked Beans here. Hello.
Hi there. Yeah, just had a quick question. I know this is not a really high priority. I already said this, the little QA thing, but I was curious. Is there any plans to add more music, let's say to different tile sets? For example, you added a dome tile set, and then you added music for that. And I have complained about this before on the forums that Bank does not have a music in the beginning.
I know, it's sad.
I know, and it's a little nitpicky. It doesn't really affect gameplay, but it really takes me out of the experience. So yeah.
I'm surprised you still have music turned off.
Oh, I love the music. I adore it. I actually feel like it's a huge part of the game to have the music on.
I love the soundtrack as well. It's just you're like, you hear something over and over again. It starts to drive you nuts no matter what it is. But people have different tolerances for that,
True, true.
Yeah. Pending certain things, we'll definitely be getting Santino to produce more soundtrack for us. So, and that will cover things like the bank. I think in the long run, there are really cool solutions. Like there's a middleware called Elias that does what is it, like dynamic audio queuing, basically. I don't know how to describe it. If you're like an audio guy, it's basically like Ableton, but a game private. What that means is instead of it being like a canned song, it can be something dynamically done and done in reaction to what's happening. And we'd still have like an option where it's like, no matter what in execution, I don't want to listen to music, right? But I think you see like things like Ready or Not. There's something really cool about the door gets blown up and now the kick drums start going, right? So I think there's probably a nice, and I'm very sensitive to like my audio information being interrupted by music, which is typically what I just turn on, right? But striking a nice balance there where it's like you get into a gunfight and the music starts playing. Like if you think kind of like the beginning little drum beat to 56K Mark song. That's the music that plays in like the Gunplay 3.0 trailer, for instance. That could probably be put into the game and not interfere with your audio. So I'd love to expand it further where it's like there's a continuous soundtrack and not just it cuts out, right? But then the other thing is I would love to do. I noticed some people in the community are doing remixes, and I think that would be a cool thing. Is to like what Elias opens up the opportunity to is kind of people expand such a solution, and you could imagine they're like different radio stations as well that would allow you to switch between dynamic soundtracks. So yeah, I think like if we get to the big pie in the sky thing in terms of resources for the project, the expansion on that will happen one day, and we'll get something far more comprehensive than what we have now. It'll be really, really cool. So, but again, like don't anytime soon. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for answering that. I just had one more real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Could you please add Power Void for the intro for Bank? That's all I ask. I think that song is amazing, and I haven't heard at all in the entering or in the starting phase for anything. If it's possible, great. If not, so be it.
Okay, yeah, it's a great suggestion. Of course, we can do that. I wasn't aware that we weren't using it anywhere. So okay,
awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, can you just DM me specifically? The timestamp you're talking about is just the beginning of the song.
I'd love to. That'd be great. Yeah, I could send that. It's basically the drop when the drop of the song when it starts, and there's also a nice build up for it. I'll DM it to you.
Awesome. Yeah, please do. Thanks. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Nice. Cool. So Tanky is asking about the ranked overall. Is that something we're focusing on the near future, or does it have to wait?
I will factor it into our planning. I don't know, like I guess the question is, what is ranked overall? Because we could just phone it in and it's just the same thing we have now, but instead of it giving you an arbitrary number for your elo, it gives you
some nice graphic
gold or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like cool. Like I'm fine with that. We should do that, right? I would prefer that it be a more substantial thing, like you enter into a ranked game because the matchmaker found a proper match for you, instead of it being like, oh yeah, you're up against a DPL team that totally should not be 5 stacking against randos and ranked, but because we just haven't gated the outcome and expressed those elo restrictions well, right? Like that's kind of what I mean by ranked overalls. I like ranked to work well so that it's like you're playing a casual match, right? And imagine a state where casual is, I think, a lot more casual than it is right now, if that makes sense. It's more like a variety hour, and it's not just the same mode that we keep playing over and over now, but there's different. I don't know how to put this. The vision is, it's like you have all these modes in Counter-Strike that are like failed competitive modes.
Okay.
But they're fun, right? And if someone who like isn't Valve actually bothered to do anything with them, think about solving problems with them, then they may not. I don't think they'll ever be like competitive, right? But they can be competitive enough that it's like they're a pleasure to have in a casual game and much needed to the experience, right? So that's where we want to go with that, which means that you, instead of rank just being 12 rounds of casual, it becomes more deeper in that this is the hyper competitive experience, and you're always queuing into it because you want that. And it essentially serves as a bridge for finding your 5-man stack and participating in league play, which I think we can all agree is like, if you reach that moment, right, where it's like you find a team of people that you think are really cool, and you all start playing this game competitive, that's like a cool moment, right? And that's kind of where we want to tractor beam people into that experience, because obviously that's where the long-term retention is for people. But it's just kind of like the game that we've been making this whole year is meant to be a deeply competitive one. So yeah, so the ranked overhaul is kind of meant to do that. So we end up with a state where people play ranked games, they're sufficiently high quality that they have a good experience, they come back and play them instead of like immediately getting stomped and then being like, well, I don't want to ever do that again. Yeah, I think that's what the ranked overhaul is. It's yeah, I'm just gonna have to get back to you on time. If you guys have a more interim thing of just please do this, like fuck all the stuff you're talking about, just give us whatever, please DM me. Love to hear that feedback. But yeah, you know, like that's kind of the big picture for ranked overhaul is to make it so that, you know, like if you're like solo queuing or pretty much short of a 5-stack, right, that you can go have fun and have a consistent competitive experience, right? But yeah, we definitely want, once you enter into the 5-stack, we'll find you an appropriate 5-stack to fight against, you know. And maybe it's like you're just a 5-stack that really sucks, and so you can still play ranked. No offense, but yeah, there's a certain point at which like a inflection point where it's like people in a 5-stack are just like potatoes, and then once they reach that point, they pretty much will beat any randomly assembled 5-stack simply because they got the gel down and they have sufficient technical skill in aiming and shooting, that kind of stuff, that they just won't get owned by people who can actually play an FPS game, right? And I think at that point we have to be like, okay, well, let's make league play super easy, so you can still simul queue into that, and it's just as fluid, right? And yeah, you know, like we'll get there one day. But I just want to make sure that like there is sort of a delineated experience between solo queuing and league play, and that in the league play, it's like it doesn't you know, you're not, just because you're in the league doesn't mean you're going to be fighting the top people that are on all every day, right? Yeah, so we'll figure that out. I guess I'm just trying to say the ranked overhaul is in a way a can of worms, and it's pending a much larger update, one of those big project updates that won't fit in a regular update. That said, if you guys have a pitch for like you should totally do this, fits into a regular update, and it's sensible, then you know I will agree. So cool. Yeah, we should move on to the next question. And again 9 minutes, so
yeah, all right.
Probably let's make it 8 minutes, because
yeah,
1 minute to
switch channels
to prepare,
and stuff.
So, yeah,
sure. Okay, so multiple people are asking about tutorial improvements, and especially regarding like learning about how the map works and the general game flow. Do we need a specific question?
Or... Yeah, okay. No, that's fine. Okay. Aaron has been working on bots, and they're actually really, really cool. I'm very impressed with them. He's done a great job with that. So what I'd like to do is use them to make a tutorial, like an interim one, that is a bit deeper than what we have now, because it's like, it's not even too effective in it. Like, people don't even get stuff like the clacker they use for the door charge is also the clacker they use for the wall charge. It's like, oh my god. So something a bit more robust there would help. But I think really the pitch I've been making is what we want is a multiplayer tutorial. So it's like if you have a friend,
That would be
they
cool.
can come in and teach you how to play the game, right? But if you don't have a friend, and this is crucial, then we can pair you with other people. And essentially during that tutorial process, build you a team. And so you've broken the ice and everything, and we've avoided that horrible moment where it's like you join a new due process game and no one's talking to each other. And the stakes are pretty high because it's like every moment you're not talking, you're losing. So if we can get to a point where the multiplayer tutorial functions essentially as a team builder, I think that would be fucking amazing, right? Like that's going to be some cutting edge shit for social engineering. Because the reason why you don't see team games like Due Process and why your game, frankly, isn't doing something is teamwork's really, really hard nut to crack, and it's way easier to just make a game like Valorant. It's like, well, teamwork's cool, but just headshot 5 guys and win, right? So I think that'll be instrumental to solving the problem. It's just going to be a deep problem to solve. But then that, I think, can also lead to this bot-based co-op mode, right? Because some people are going to be like, okay, we're ready for casual out of that. And some people are going to be like, I still have never played an FPS before. And for them, like, I just don't think under any circumstances someone that hasn't had the basic familiarity with a multiplayer FPS on PC, they got to go into co-op before they play the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably going to be the most instrumental part of making sure that whenever you're in a casual, right, dealing with someone who is sufficiently familiar with the game, and it's not just like a total random shit show as to whether or not it's going to be a good game or a bad game because you don't know who you're dealing with, right? I think the other thing that happens, not to just, I guess, I'll just spill all the beans, right? What I was talking about earlier with casual not being casual enough is it's like, well, in FPS games, right, you either have dedicated servers or you have what are they called? Session-based multiplayer, which is what we're running right now.
Yeah.
Right. The advantage of a dedicated server model is, you join a game and it's really stable in that the population that you're playing with doesn't change when the match ends, right? So people develop gels and rhythms and a social familiarity, which is really, really important in a game like ours, right? But they also, like depending on how well those people have designed their game, they're usually like tools like auto balance and that kind of stuff that make sure that the game is pretty consistent in difficulty for players, right? I think that'll help a lot where it's, if casual becomes something where like you join into I wouldn't call it a dedicated server. It's sort of like a hybrid model between what we have now and before. And those people are just having a good time. They're playing the variety hour that I was talking about. I think that's going to help a lot with the horrible like early game moment in the game. It's really bad where you join a new game. Are people going to talk or not? That's awful. If they're already talking in one of these like dedicated-ish servers, then it follows they will continue to talk. And the cool thing is like you might group up out of that and decide, okay, we're going to go hit up ranked competitive and give it a shot. So yeah, like that's kind of like the long-term goal here is what the fuck? Sorry. Multiplayer co-op. I'm sorry, multiplayer tutorial, co-op, casual, that's substantially changed from now. Ranked and then league, right? Like I'd like to get there. That's going to take a while. Interim solutions will be necessary for the tutorial, but honestly, guys, like if people don't get that the clacker they used for the door charge is the same thing they use for the wall charge, you know, I just saw that a couple of days ago.
Did your voice just cut out? Okay, I can't hear you anymore. Well, time is up anyway, I guess. All right. I think his answer was pretty much more or less complete anyway, though, and he has to go. So I guess we'll wrap it up here. Not sure what just happened. Technical difficulties. Anyway, I think we got a good amount of questions answered today. So I hope you enjoyed that. And we couldn't answer all of them, obviously, because there are always too many. But we'll, as I mentioned at the start, we'll do these more frequently in the future. I heard something, some static.
I'm back.
Oh, yeah, you're back. Great, but you also have to leave now. So.
Yeah, I know. What did you guys hear from before? Where did I cut out?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure. You cut out like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah. Basically.
You were about to sum it up, I think.
Yeah, multiplayer tutorial, co-op, more expanded, persistent casual mode, ranked league. That's where I want to get to, where we have stratification of the community. Oh, people say everyone heard everything except you, Plan. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Then you don't have to repeat it, I guess.
Thanks for everyone who DM'd me. Really appreciate it. So yeah.
That's
okay. Interesting.
I didn't do anything.
That's all for now, guys. I'll see you later. See you next month, and I hope this was helpful. And you know, I do really want to stress that we're going to get better about releasing regular updates that actually give you a reason to come back and play the game, and it has substantially improved, and you know, retains your interest, because we frankly just have not been earning it, and it shows. And we're going to do a better job of that. So. Okay.
All right.
Bye, everyone. See you.
Sounds great. Yeah. That's it from us. See you next time. Bye-bye.
S61, I'm sleeping at 39. Frank.